All right, boys, so here's what I went with. I just got these standard 4600 series Bilsteins. I looked and looked and looked and tried to decide which ones I wanted to go with, but I decided to do these because of the fact that the way these are designed internally, they should last longer. You know, the Ranchos are real nice as far as rod quality, but they don't seem to hold up very long. I looked at the Fox shocks. Those are super nice, and they have great reviews, but they also don't seem to last very long. At least the Foxes are rebuildable, but I don't want to have to deal with that. Not to mention those Fox shocks are really expensive. So the Bilsteins, you know, great reputation, they last forever, and they're just good quality shocks. I just decided to go with these. Now the yellow ones are for your standard height trucks, and since I don't have any kind of a lift kit on the truck. I do have a small level kit on the front, but the rest of it is totally stock. I decided to just do the yellow ones, and I saved enough money on these that I was able to also go ahead and get a front stabilizer also. So I'm going to throw these on the truck. Real simple job to do, and what I'm trying to cure is that bouncy ride quality. So we will see if this fixes it or not. Wow, I'm out of breath. Whew. What a job. I'll tell you what, the rears were very, very easy. I just used my air impact gun and a couple of sockets. Pew, pew. No big deal. Did those both in about 5 minutes maybe. Then you get up here to the front and it's a nightmare because obviously the shock rod wants to spin on you. There's a provision on the top of the rod up there for, excuse me, for a Torx socket or a Torx key. That you can set in there, and that way when you're using your wrench to tighten the nut, the rod won't spin. Well, the problem is, as you can see, that you can barely make access to that. So I couldn't even get a ratchet in there with my Torx socket. So what I ended up doing was slotting the boot down, which ideally you don't really want to do, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I went all the way up to the top of the rod so that I'm not boogering up any of the rod down here. And I put my vice grips on there, and this seems to be working. It goes slow. If you've got a 3/4 inch ratcheting wrench, it would be a whole lot faster to run that nut down. You can get to it from the top, which is how I actually took the old one off. You know, I got my air impact gun, I went around the top with a whole bunch of extensions, and you can get down to it. But I wanted to use a wrench on this on purpose because I'm just barely being lucky enough to get away with doing it this way. So I don't want to put a whole bunch of sudden force on it with an impact, you know. But anyway, the bottom of it's not too bad. You know, you got a retainer cap on the back, so you can just put your socket on there and zip that one out and back in pretty easy. Not a big deal there, but the top is a little bit of a chore. Anyway, this is the last one. I'm finishing it up, and I'll take it for a ride and we'll see if it's any better. Just for the record, what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'm trying to settle down the rod quality a little bit. I've been in a lot of trucks in my lifetime, way more than my fair share of trucks. I have to say this truck right here is the worst riding truck I've ever been in my entire life. It's like being on a pogo stick going down the road. It's just constant oscillation and bumps, and I mean, if you run over an ant, it feels like you hit a curb. You know, it's just terrible riding truck. I really don't want to tear into the suspension and start changing any of that. So I'm hoping that these new shocks will kind of settle it down a little bit. You know, the factory shocks were still on this truck when I bought it. It's got 87,000 miles on it now. So it's possible that the factory shocks could have been getting a little bit long in the tooth. So hopefully these Bilsteins will just kind of settle the bouncing, you know. I'm not really looking for a plush Cadillac ride. You know, it's a heavy duty truck. I'm just trying to find a smooth ride, you know, settle this thing down. It's the best way I can put it. So anyway, we'll see if the Bilsteins will be the answer to that. I hope so, but time will tell. So the next thing I'm going to do also this weekend is put a new thermostat in this truck, because this thing takes forever. I mean forever to warm up to operating temperature, and if the weather's below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, it won't get all the way to operating temperature. So I'm figuring that maybe the primary thermostat is just stuck open. You know, you remember when I put the grill cover on there, you know, I assumed that maybe it was just a diesel thing and maybe it just needed a little help. So I put the grill cover on there. It helped a little bit, but not really much. So anyway, gonna do a T-stat, and you guys have seen this before. It's not really that big of a deal on these trucks. The primary anyway is not that big of a deal. You know, here's your upper hose. I think what I'm gonna do is just leave this connected. No sense in taking that apart. There is an O-ring in there and I just don't want to deal with that. So I'm gonna go over here and just disconnect the housing right there. Of course, the thermostat's right down in there. So shouldn't be too big of a deal. I did buy the Motorcraft one. I know there's some aftermarket ones out there that are fancy pants and all that, but you know, I don't really care. I just want this thing to perform the way that it was supposed to from the factory. You know, that would be good enough for me. So I bought the Motorcraft one. It was only like, I don't know, 25 bucks or so. And I just feel like I know I can at least trust, you know, Motorcraft parts. So anyway, I'm gonna do that, trying to decide if I'm gonna drain the radiator any or not. Some guys do, some don't, seems like. Should be a petcock right up in here. Don't really see it. Might have to get down low to see it. I might drain a little bit out, but anyhow, I'm gonna pop that in there and then we'll see if hopefully this will fix my heat issue and I can start getting some heat in the cab a lot faster. I mean, to kind of explain how bad it is, let's say the temperature's 15 degrees Fahrenheit when I leave for work in the morning. I can drive this truck 20 miles down the highway and the temperature will only come up to say 160 or so after 20 miles of driving on the highway. That's how bad it is. So obviously something is wrong here. I know some of these trucks had the rapid heat option, which helped get heat in the cab even faster. This one doesn't have that, but from what I'm seeing, even without that option, this thing should be heating up faster than that. So let's fix this. So I decided to go ahead and drain some coolant out. The petcock is actually like right here. You just can't see it on the camera, but it's right there. I did have to use some pliers, and I decided to run a tube down in my bucket. And this way, using a 5-gallon bucket, I can kind of monitor exactly how much I'm draining out also. I think I'm just going to drain about 2 gallons. That should be plenty to get it down to where I won't make a big mess under the hood. So I'll go ahead and do that. Then I'll be ready to get started up here. So unfortunately, I have lost my audio equipment, or at least a very important piece to my audio equipment. So I'm going to have to get a new one. I'm going to take a pick and go down here, try to release the little tab. And it's really kind of, looks like it's going to be difficult to get to. So I'm going to try and get my body up here where I can see what I'm doing. Get down in here. Not very easy to do. Tell you what, I might end up not doing this part also, because I can't even hardly see that little retaining tab down in there. Man, that's kind of a pain. So you'll see what I'm talking about when you get in here to do this. You can't really get to it very well. There's just too much stuff in the way on these diesel trucks, man. Just too much stuff in the way. And of course, I just dropped it. So let's go to plan B. I'm just gonna zip them 3 bolts out. Oh, I see why guys try to get that out of there, because this one bolt over here is actually directly under the hose. Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna try and get my pick tool back. All right, so I couldn't figure out how to get in there to that retainer. So what I ended up using is just a swivel. Got a little 1/4-inch drive swivel, and that allowed me to get to that 3rd bolt that's under the hose. So I just took the whole thing apart, and I am losing some coolant, even though I drained some out. Probably because the engine is still warm. It's not hot, but it's warm, so a little bit of pressure still in there. These are 8mm, so I guess they won't take a whole lot of torque to put them back on. Something seems to be holding it. I guess these back ones back here, they've got a lot of threads. They go way down in there. So there it goes. It's free now. So now I'm gonna wiggle this thing up out of here and I'll be able to see. Okay, now I can see the clip. Now I can see the little retainer. Should be able to get in there and loosen this up now. Yeah, there we go. It's a lot easier when you can see what you're doing. There we go. You can see the clip there. You just got to pull that straight out. But like I said, it's kind of hard to see, you know, when everything's down in there. So yeah, you can see these back two bolts are a whole lot longer than the front one. So that's why it took a little while to get that out of there. All right. Now I can see the thermostat. I guess really I don't even have to take this hose off the housing, but a lot of guys do, because when you put the housing back on, it's easier to see what you're doing and you can line everything back up properly. So there's your thermostat. There's a thermostat down there. The gasket doesn't look bad, but maybe the thermostat is just, like I said, maybe it's just stuck open. I don't know. Gonna put a new one in it anyway, so we'll swap them out. All right, so here's the new one. There's the part number on it. My truck's a 2019, but I'm assuming that this part number probably works for a lot of different model years. And the new one does come with a new gasket around there, so that's nice. Now you'll see the weep hole here. This side does not have a weep hole, this side does. You want that weep hole to be facing the engine. And you just saw when I took that housing off that that weep hole was weeping some coolant. So I'm gonna make sure I install it just like that again. So I'm gonna use some pliers just to make it a little easier to get the old one out. And like I said, the gasket doesn't really look too bad on this one. Huh, interesting. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen some guys when they take their housing off, this gasket is just pretty much obliterated and there's nothing left of it, but this one doesn't look too bad really. I don't know. Oh well, I'll put the new one in anyway. We'll see what happens. All right, there we go. Got the new thermostat down in there. Housing is tightened up, and now all I have to do is take the hose and put back on here until it snaps into place, and it should be good to go. So now I guess I'll just start the truck, make sure it doesn't have any leaks or anything, and next time we have a cold morning and I'm headed to work, I'll watch the scan gauge so I can see the water temps, and hopefully it'll come up a whole lot faster. All right, I don't see any leaks, so I'm gonna start filling the reservoir back up. Now, as far as filling it back up goes, this truck's a 2019. Sometime in 2018, they changed to this yellow coolant. So you're gonna wanna make sure you get the Motorcraft yellow coolant if you have an 18 or newer. I think that they may have switched the older ones over to this yellow stuff also. But anyway, that's the one you're gonna need, and I got some distilled water also. So I filled the reservoir up. I'm letting the truck warm up now, and Pretty soon we should be getting some heat out of here. I got one of my belts wet. You can kind of hear it chirping there. Looks like we're up to 116 degrees already, and I just started the truck a minute ago, so I don't know, time will tell. I need to drive it on a cold morning, but hopefully this is the cure. So I think really I'm gonna need a cold day. Gonna need to drive this truck on a below freezing day at least to know for sure if it's really any better or not. Because you can see the ambient temp is about 51 degrees out here today, so it's actually kind of a warm day. And you know, it's up to about 173. I've been driving for about 5 minutes and it's up to 173 degrees. I let the truck cool way down and then got in it and took off down the road again right now. So I mean, it's coming up to temperature slowly, but it's 50 degrees outside. It's not a cold day, so I really don't know if this is the cure yet or not. Anyway, time will tell. We're gonna have some cold weather next week, and I'll be driving the truck to work every day. I will soon find out if the new thermostat is gonna help or not. As we come up here to a school bus, it's the end of the day for these kiddos. But I'll say this, the shocks that I put on here, so they did kind of settle down the ride quality a little bit. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It's still rough. You still feel the bumps in the road. I mean, it's a heavy duty truck. It's not gonna ride like a half ton, but it is better. There is more control of the ride quality, I can tell. And when I really notice it is when I hit big bumps. You know, like we've got some bridge expansion joints around here that are just terrible. And when I hit those now, it's a lot more controlled. And you know, those bumps are smoother, and the truck handles those things better. So, you know, big dips in the road, there's a lot more control. You can definitely tell the difference between the OE shocks that were on the truck for 87,000 miles and these new Bilstein shocks. There's definitely a noticeable difference in ride quality. You know, again, is it perfect? No, I would like for it to be a little bit better, but it's definitely better than it was. Now, having said that, you know, one of the things I was worried about when I put these Bilsteins on here was how stiff, how firm Bilstein shocks are known to be. I've had Bilstein shocks in the past, and they were honestly too firm. They were more firm than what I wanted. Having said that, those were all half-ton trucks. I've never had a heavy-duty truck until now. These things are a lot heavier. The wheels are heavier, the tires are heavier, the axles are heavier. There's a lot more unsprung weight in a heavy-duty truck like this. So I don't find that the firmness of the Bilsteins is a problem at all on this truck. In fact, I kind of wish that they were a little bit firmer. You know, I can tell how these have kind of settled down the ride quality quite a bit. If they were even a little bit firmer, it might be even better. And I think the silver 5600 series, I think those are valved a little bit firmer, so maybe I should have tried those. But in any case, it is a little bit better, and I'm real happy about that. I guess that's the thing about owning a used truck. There's always maintenance to do, right? But, you know, a brand new truck just like this one is about $69,000 now. So I'll take my $40,000 used one and put a little bit of work into it. That'll be just fine with me. So now I'm gonna check out my buddy's truck because he's got a Ram 1500 and he accidentally knocked the shark fin antenna off the top of it the other day, driving underneath the tree branch, I think it was. So I'm gonna take a look at that and see what we can figure out as far as replacing the antenna. Hopefully it didn't bend any of the sheet metal up here in the roof, because if you bend any of that sheet metal, then it can be hard to seal the new one back off again so it won't leak, you know. But if all the sheet metal is straight, it should be pretty straightforward. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I got for now. You guys have a good weekend. We'll talk to you later.